We had certain sessions for essays. And in essays, let's be honest, you gave me feedback saying, Naman, this is not making sense. You were honest with me. That is what I appreciate most, right? You told me this flow of thoughts is just not making sense. So all that feedback during the essay phase was amazing. In my interview, there were not a lot of questions, to be honest. There was mostly like they literally did not start with introduction or some of those questions, but they said, tell us, what do you really do? What is your work like? And then I started talking about my work, which I was really actually happy to. And then they wanted some more insights.
Hi everyone, I'm Devansh. Welcome to the second episode of Raw Series. Today we are meeting our alumni Namal, who made it to ISB this year. So he is joining a PGP program of ISB. And today in this conversation, we'll try to understand his journey, what are the challenges he faced, how he overcame that. And categorically for people who are applying this year, there is a lot to learn. So let's hear from Naman how his journey has been.
Thank
So, my first question to you, Naman, is if you could give us a bit of a brief about yourself so that everyone knows about who you are, where you're working, what have you done till date.
Before I start, I do want to thank you and your entire team. It was a really great experience learning from you guys and implementing that to get into ISB. So big thanks to you and your team. And talking about myself, I'm an electrical engineer by background. I graduated in 22. I've been working at ExxonMobil for the last 3.5 years. Through this entire journey, I've realized I want to do some more learning. That's what, made me work towards ISB. And yes, that's basically when I thought that I need to do ISB and got into it.
Great to know that, Naman. So, great. So, I know your profile. So, of course, nothing new for me, but it's great. So, first, tell me what was that point where you decided that you need an MBA, and that to a 1 year MBA for that matter.
So I think ever since I even started working, I always knew I want to work towards understanding business in depth. Okay, when you start working, you get, a very specific set of experiences, and it was really good. I had like amazing 3.5 years working, but I always knew that I want to get out there and, not stop learning, grow into where I want to grow. And that's always been learning about businesses. I think that's the core of everything that we do. So that was my motivation to get into ISB or a B school. Now, talking about 1 year, that's really important, right? I think learning something in a short span of time and then actually putting it out there in the world, you know, in a new job role is more important. So I wanted something that's concise, 1 year long, not, I didn't want to spend 2 years out of the industry and take away that time. So that was my motivation to get into a 1 year program. Um, and I think let's just be honest, right? ISB is, in my opinion, the best 1 year program right now in India. So that's where I want it to be.
So partially, you answered my next question. It was about why you chose ISB. What was the one thing which actually fascinated you towards ISB as a brand? Because there are a lot of people who would be watching this discussion who have to make a choice between whether they go for colleges abroad or they go for colleges in India. Within India, whether they should choose ISB or IIMs. So, what was that decision like for you?
hmm I'll tell you the decision process because I think it's a journey everyone has to take.
Right.
If you remember in our first session, I asked you what are your opinions on what is different between an MBA in India, in US or Europe, and ultimately what I figured for me was, where do I want to stay? Okay, I've sort of realized over the last 3 years that I want to stay in India. I feel that's where the biggest problems and the biggest opportunities for business are, and that's what wants me to stay in India. It's actually, I feel, very time and resource investing to go outside in a very uncertain world. So I've always been clear I want to stay in India. So that was my one decision point. And the second would be, why ISB? There's a lot of MBA and B schools in India also. ISB, I think, offers you a very good mix. I'm not someone who believes that right out of your graduation or your engineering school you should do an MBA. You should experience industry see what you really want to do, what are the problems you want to fix, and then say, I want to go to a business school, right? So that's where ISB offered me that mix, because it has a minimum experience criteria of 2 years. And then there are people I will meet there who will be 10 years experience, who will be 5 years experience, right? So that mixed set of skills, people and industry, that mix that I get at ISB in a 1 year program, I think that is what weighs the scale towards that.
Wonderful. And in fact, one of the things which you talked about our first interaction, where I mentioned that, if you want to build your career in India, nothing like ISB in India. Another thing, in fact, this year it's 12th ranked in the Financial Times ranking, though it was not at 12th when we met for the first time. But today, I think you're gonna join a 12th ranked B school globally, which is much ahead of a lot of Western, US, European B schools, which is again a proud thing. Uh,
Mhm.
okay, so what made you decide around applying in a round one?
I think that's generally the feedback that I've heard is round one and round two, if you feel prepared, right? That's a personal choice. I think the tip is, when do you give your GMAT, and when do you think you have a score that when you can stop thinking about your GMAT score and start preparing for your essays? I gave my GMAT around June, July timeframe, and I scored 695. I felt for ISB that's tip more than the median selection score. So that was like, I don't need to worry about my GMAT score anymore. But I definitely want to work upon my application, my essays, my interview story, and all of those things. So from there till first round application was sometime October. So that gave me like 3.5 months where I could work on my essays, my stories, my interview preparation. So that's why it was round one for me. If your score is, you want to take another score in August, September, then probably round two would be a better choice. But since I had a score in hand, I felt 3 months is enough to get interview ready and essays ready. I preferred round one.
Absolutely. And I would say one thing which is very, very specific about your profile and while working with you, you're very, very particular around when to do things. You had a very structured plan with you. And this, I always say, the people who apply to the round one, the best thing is, of course, there are more chances for getting scholarships. There are more chances of making it to the ISB because the number of applications is lesser as compared to round three. But you need to have made this decision long back rather than deciding somewhere in August, July. It makes more sense if you decide early. So tell me one thing. So you talked about your GMAT score, which is 695. First of all, do you think that was a North Star in your profile as you analyze it back? I know it's a difficult question, but
Mhm.
what do you think that was that one North Star metrics in your overall profile, which you think should have worked in your favor?
I'll be honest, I don't think it was my GMAT score. I think ISB is getting very competitive this year. You told me there's, 1.5 times roughly applications from
Absolutely.
last year.
True.
And people I've been meeting, they're typically around this score. So I think my North Star was, I had a very unique experience. I had a very global experience working at ExxonMobil. I worked supporting assets in South America, in Europe, and these kind of places. Plus, the whole energy industry is a very major and a unique
True.
experience that I had. So I think that was always my North Star that gave me an edge, or, separated, or, showed me in a better light than probably other candidates.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So let's go to the application now and let's talk a bit about application. So though I know what we have written and how you went about it, but it's always the case, when we work with someone, we it is the candidate who writes their essays, who write their SOP, and you have gone through it, right? So what would you advise to someone who is starting their application or they're planning for round one? What are the things they should keep in mind while writing essays for ISP?
First thing I think anyone needs to know right off the start is, no one is going to write an application for you.
True.
It cannot be another person. It cannot be a AI or a copilot or a chat GPT. Just get that straight.
True.
It is your story. It needs to echo with you, because if you do not relate to that story, right, you'll be asked a question in your interview, or somebody who's reading that application, will somehow get a sense that it's not a very genuine story. So first thing is, you need to write it. It's your story. It should be genuine. The only thing is, and maybe we'll talk more about this, but you need third party perspective. Somebody needs to have read your stories, given you feedback, because sometimes you'll just get lost in your own thoughts and think I have the best application, whereas there'll be some details or a flow or inconsistency that's just not making sense to a third party reader. So that's super important to know.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, then a question around, because I know you joined us few months before, or decent number of months before the round one. What made you join Global Creed? And the follow up on that is, what do you think uh, jo- joining Global Creed, in what way it has helped you around your application?
Mhm. Yes, I said there's a lot of options in the market, and it can just boggle things out, right? I think first the reason I think I talked to you even before signing up for the session, and it tells me that there's people caring in this session, because the founder or co-founder basically comes to me and spends time with me without even taking a penny, right? So that made me feel that I'll be taken care of there. I wouldn't be just assigned to some random person and figure out my application. So I felt cared here, and that's why I decided to join Global Creed.
And how has been your experience?
Very amazing, right? I think we had a very structured approach throughout the sessions. We knew every session this is the problem we tackled. We had certain sessions for essays, and in essays, let's be honest, you gave me feedback saying, Naman, this is not making sense. You were honest with me. That is what I appreciate most, right? You told me this flow of thoughts is just not making sense. You dived into my story and said, oh, what you said is amazing, let's just put that into writing, right? So all that feedback during the essay phase was amazing. The second thing was Shivam was doing the interview sessions with me. He I forgot, I think he's from ISB, but he's been on ISB interview panels for sure before.
Right.
That really helped me feel comfortable that I know what I'm getting into. And I'll be honest, it was exactly how Shivam explained that, it'll be very relaxed. People will make you feel comfortable. They'll ask you questions about your experience, instead of, it's not an interview where people will be like, do you know this GK fact? Do you know that GK fact? It's not that, right? So th- that helped me get prepared for ISB, like exactly how it's supposed to be.
Great, great. Of course, you talked about our interview. So my next question is more around interview. Can you briefly touch upon what was your interview experience? What all you went through during that interview?
In my interview, there were not a lot of questions, to be honest. There was mostly like they literally did not start with introduction or some of those questions, but they said, tell us, what do you really do? What is your work like? And then I started talking about my work, which I was really actually happy to. And then they wanted some more insights. How were my experiences? What were the problems that I solved? And then in the middle of the interview, they said, okay, they basically wanted to test how much do I know about my work, my company. And then they said, assume we don't know anything about ExxonMobil, tell us what ExxonMobil does. So it was those fundamental questions, nothing out of the way, nothing like a GK question, but they wanted to test my presence or awareness of the situations I've been in the last 3 years where I've been working. So that was mostly my interview experience. It was like 30 minutes, very relaxed interview. There were two panelists who were previous ISB alums, and they just quizzed me about my work experience, basically.
Got it. Any advice for the people who gonna appear for interviews this year? Anything you wanna tell them? Because there is a lot of anxiety which is always there. And of course, in our mock interviews also, we try to balance that and tell them that it's not a typical interview where you would be asked GK questions and all. So any advice you wanna give to the future aspirants and maybe your future juniors?
Let's take 3 pointers. First of all, give a lot of mock interviews. I personally gave like 5+ mock interviews,
Right.
prepared different sections, had my answers lined up. So that's the preparation part. If you've given mock interviews, anything they throw at you, you'll be able to answer. The second is prepare more about awareness questions, right? What have you really done? What is the story that you've written? If you have a disconnect with your essays or your work experience or your resume, your essays plus resume is your interview, basically. That's what the interview is. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is just relax it a bit, right? They're not there. Somebody, I don't remember who told me that, but somebody said they're not there to, deselect you. It's more like a selection process. You made the cut, just show them your true self, what you've learned through, and you'll most likely get selected. So
Absolutely. In fact, the filter and the rejection round is your call when you get an interview call,
exactly,
while the
yes.
interviews are more around selection. You're absolutely right. Perfect. So let's move to our next segment where we do a quick rapid fire. I will throw you
Okay.
some questions. You're going to give me some answers. It's more for fun and also to gain some knowledge, whatever we can from these questions. So let me start with the first thing. One word for the R1 results wait time. What was it look like?
Painful. Absolutely painful. It takes a lot of time.
Absolutely. What is the biggest myth about PGP interviews?
They test your GK.
Your Zen habit during the application week.
Read your essays and make other people read your essays.
Perfect. One thing you would change about R1 journey.
Absolutely nothing. It was actually fun.
Perfect. Toughest part, GMAT or the essays? Or the
Essays.
interviews?
Hands down the essays. It feels like you're going to write 3 essays. You will spend a lot of time writing every word of it.
Perfect. So the first person you called when you got the selected email.
My parents.
Perfect. One word for your experience with Global Creed.
Eye-opening, and I would say honest feedback.
Perfect. One word for what you're gonna expect for next 1 year.
Classrooms.
Classrooms. Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. So now you're going to join a cohort this year. So my question to you is, and this is not a one word, you can answer it in as many words. What are you expecting for next 1 year?
I am super excited to go back to school. I've spent 3.5 years out of school, and I'm just thrilled to go back to school. I know there's going to be a frenzy about, hey, jobs, placements. I just want to soak it in. Okay, it'll come as it comes. I've been meeting some of the alums of ISB. They just said, you're smart enough, you've cracked it. That's not overconfidence, that's confidence. You will figure stuff out. Just go in there, enjoy your 1 year. It's going to pass out like a breeze, and enjoy the journey. You'll find a good job. Don't worry about those kind of things.
Perfect, perfect. Great, Naman. Thank you for giving us so much time. I think it has been a wonderful experience working with you, and it's really great to see that message. I still remember I keep all the messages on my phone when we receive that you got selected. I still feel that it's a proud moment. So anything as a parting note you want to say? Of course, we are not parting. We will always be there rooting for you, and anything you need, you can always reach out to us. But anything you want to tell towards the closing note, this could be advice to the future applicants. This could be your experience. Anything you want to share.
Probably for everyone out there, going on this journey, it's not a 1 month, 3 month, even 1 year journey, right? It takes years. You got to keep consistent effort. Ultimately, it will pay off. It might not happen just with a snap of fingers. It takes consistent effort. And trust your friends, family, your guide, your mentors around you, and you'll make it.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much, Naman, for joining us today.